All right, happy 4th of July again, everybody. I'm making two videos today. One was about the string on my bow, and now we're going to talk about the sights. So, sighting in my sights, don't know if I did it right, don't know if I did it wrong, don't know if I really give a darn, honestly. But the way it worked for me was I took my top pin, since I've got the 3-pin vertical. I don't know how well you guys can see that in here, but that's what I have, is the 3-pin vertical. Let's see if it'll focus in on that for me. Yeah, I better get out of the picture. There. See, you guys can see that. And so what I did was I went off the top pin, because these pins do not move. They are not adjustable. The only thing you can adjust are the side markers on the tape itself. Those are the only things you can adjust. So I did the top pin at 20, and then I went out to 60 with that same top pin, and that's what I used for sighting in to get my sight tape. They probably wanted me to go off the middle one. Don't know. I didn't read the instructions, but this is the way it worked for me. So top pin at 20, top pin at 60, got my yardage done. And when I did that, I went back to 20 and locked in the top lock on here, right here. This little guy right here is your stopper. So you can slide that up and down the whole thing and lock it in. And then, so I locked that in for my 20. And then as soon as I got done with that, I moved the top marker to line up with my tape at 20. I had to put the tape on here and then bolt it back to this. And then what I did was, after I went back to 20, I then started sighting in my second pin and third pin. So basically what I did was I backed up 5 yards from 20, went to 25, I shot high, went to 30, shot high, went to 35, shot high, went to 40, shot high, went to 45, and that's where my second pin is. So I realize that's a long distance in between the first 2 pins, but that's the way it worked for me, because with my setup, I'm shooting 80 pounds on the Lift XD with 32-inch draw, and I'm shooting at 315 feet per second. So with that speed and the kinetic energy built up, I feel like, because I'm just over 100 pounds of kinetic energy on Easton's website. You can look it up for kinetic energy. They've got the equation figured out, but there's also an equation you can look up on Google too to find out kinetic energy, and you can type in your numbers, and then it gives you something to multiply by or divide by, and then it gives you your kinetic energy amount. You just got to know your feet per second and the weight of your arrow, and that's how they determine your kinetic energy or your force or whatever you want to call it. But I'm shooting, it's like right at 102 and a whole bunch of decimal points as far as kinetic energy goes, which I find is probably more important than FOC, which is front of center. I don't really find that, in my opinion, to be I think it's just content is what it is. It's something to talk about. I don't find it that important. But that's just me, my opinion. You take it for what it's worth, but kinetic energy to me is more important. So with that being said, so I went to sight in my third pin. So I backed up to 50, and when I got to 50, I was hitting high just a little bit. So I backed up 5 more yards, and that's where I ended up for my third pin. Now, I cannot move the bottom pin any farther down as far as adjusting here on the side. It is all the way down at the bottom. It can't go any farther. It's gotta go up, if anything. So that was a little disappointing to find out that the adjustment on there wasn't as big as it could be, because they could make this a little bit bigger for people shooting. Because if I was shooting 330 or 340, 50 feet a second, there's no way you're going to get all 3 pins on here to be able to sight in for your sight tape. You're going to have to pretty much only use one, the top pin, or possibly the second pin, and that's all you're going to get out of it, because you're going to be, unless, as long as you're shooting like the same arrow weight, which is what I'm shooting, which is 467 grains with a lighted nock, is what mine is. It's 456 when you take out the lighted nock and put in the standard nock. But with a 467 grain arrow, if I was shooting any faster, I would say that getting your bottom pin on this 3-pin vertical, I'd be very disappointed. But that's pretty much maxing out this sight, in my opinion, the way it is as far as my setup goes, which is why I'm thinking I didn't do it right. But it's the way it works for me, because I have noticed with my 20-yard pin, I can stand at 35 and still hit just low by about an inch at 35 yards with my 20-yard pin. So that's just something to keep in mind. So the faster your arrow is, like if you get it above 300 feet a second like mine, you're probably going to have a setup similar to mine, especially considering that the pins inside the scope housing are fixed. You can't change them. You can't move those up and down in any way, shape, or form. That's about the only disappointing thing about this sight. But other than that, I love the sight. You know, when Mathews teamed up with UV, they shortened the scope housing, which has helped bring in a lot more light. I haven't even turned on this light that come with the sight since I bought it. I only turned it on when I bought it inside the house, and I haven't even ever shot with the light on, because the pins are very illuminated, and you all have seen some of my previous videos. I mean, I'm shooting pretty close to dark, you know, less than 30 minutes of daylight left, pretty much a scenario you might get hunting, and I can see these pins just fine. With probably, I might have to turn them on 10 to 15 minutes before dark, you know, before legal shooting lights up, something like that in the evening. But I have no complaints about the sight whatsoever, other than that little fiasco with the sight tape and the adjusters on the pins for the adjustments on the pins for lining up your pins inside the housing to the tape itself with these little needles on the side. That's my only real complaint. I wish it was a little bit longer so you could get more adjustments, and I also wish that the pins were adjustable inside the housing. Those are my only 2 real complaints, but other than that, I mean, it's still a great shooting sight. I have no problems shooting with it whatsoever. I enjoy it, so take it with a grain of salt, whatever. I'm very happy with this setup. So if you got any more questions, let me know. I'll be happy to answer them as best as I can. But that's pretty much how I set up my sights. And as always, please like and subscribe. I appreciate it. Thank you. Y'all have a good 4th of July.